قناة فلذاتنا.
سبحانك ربي يا رحمن، يا من كرمت بني الإنسان، وجعلت الأسرة تجمعنا وتقينا من لفح الحرمان. إن قام الأب بتربية للروح وأيضا للأبدان، وزرع الخير بأبناء وأسس ذياك البنيان، فسيحصد من ذلك خيرا وسيهزم أجناد الشيطان، ويؤسس بيتا للتقوى ويؤيد من رب منان، ويعامل زوجا بالحسنى ويعمر بيتا بالإحسان.
قناة فلذاتنا.
ويحفظ للأخت محبة، فالأخت كأنفاس الريحان، ويشد بكف لأخيه كي يقفا في وجه الطوفان. أسرتنا يا نعمة ربي، يا وردا أزهر في البستان، يا قارب خير يحمينا إن عصفت أمواج الخلجان. إن عاشت أسرتنا بشرع سنكون معا في بر أمان، سنكون معا في بر أمان.
قناة فلذاتنا.
And today I'm going to talk with you about how to develop critical thinking skills in your child. One of the things about critical thinking skills is that they involve a part of the brain called the frontal lobe. This tends to be the last maturing system within the brain, typically comes online around the ages of 5 to 7 and is used extensively between 7 to 12. In terms of how the brain grows and develops, it grows on the principle of we build what we use. So in developing a child's critical thinking skills, what we want to do is use that system, use it as much as possible. Some of the ways we can help the child use this system is by how we approach and interact with them. Two important approaches to our children are the intent to understand and the intent to be with. The intent to be with is just wanting to be with your child and just enjoying your child. And it establishes the baseline for self-confidence and self-value. The intent to understand helps the child begin to understand and become self-aware of their own experience. So rather than just giving the child solutions, we help the child develop their own solutions with an intent to understand, which is a simple curiosity and caring about the child's experience from the child's point of view. I wonder what it's like to do this. I wonder what would happen, what do you think might happen with that? Isn't that interesting? So do you think you might? Those sorts of questions and curiosity about the child's experience helps the child use that frontal lobe, use that critical thinking skills in terms of what they do. The other important thing about developing critical thinking skills and frontal lobe motivations is that critical thinking involves a set of motivations having to do with task-oriented and goal-directed activity. That particular brain system, as well as the other motivating system having to do with active exploratory learning, will not fully activate as long as relationship needs are pressing. And it goes beyond the scope of what I can get into here. But if the child has needs for relationship, for psychological connection, for love, affection, bonding sorts of issues, or is in emotional distress related to relationships, the other systems, particularly critical thinking and goal-directed activity and motivation systems, will not fully activate. So one of the most important things we can do for our kids to help activate the higher order thinking skills is to make sure that they're feeling safe and secure and loved in our families.
Developing critical thinking skills is essential for young children. Learning how to observe, question, and make inferences are important skills that will help children improve in all areas of development. I'm going to show you some simple ways for you to encourage those skills. Hi, I'm Adriana. Welcome back to my channel where I help teachers teach and parents raise multilingual and multicultural children. The first thing you can do is avoid yes and no questions. Always ask open-ended questions. Don't be surprised by the answers they give you or the questions they'll ask, because the more we show surprise, the more we undermine their competence. So they may feel bad about themselves or embarrassed. Avoid questions that will kind of lead your children in a certain direction. Let's say you're cleaning up the room with your child. Avoid things like, do you really think all your toys will fit into that small box? Because that sounds condescending. It shows that you don't have faith in that the box that your child chose will be fit for the job. So opt for, hey, great, you found a box. Let's do this. The next thing to do is not offer solutions when your kids have a problem. It's much better to ask them questions to help them come up with their own solutions. If they're bored, ask them, well, if you could do anything in the world today, what would you do? Or if they say to you, I don't like my room, ask them, how can we make it prettier? My math test was hard. Why was it hard? Did you not study properly? Do you think you could have done something different? Could you have prepared flashcards? Etc. The more questions you ask, the more they will be kind of forced to think of other alternatives and not have everything handed over on a silver platter. Question your kids' certainties. Don't take everything as matter of fact. Chocolate is the best ice cream in the world. Cristiano Ronaldo is the best football player in the world. Math is terrible. All boys are mean. All of these certainties that your kids have are often just things they've heard other people say. Although Cristiano Ronaldo might be a great football player, and he actually is, but ask your child why. Why is chocolate the best ice cream in the world? Why do you think all boys are mean? Why is Cristiano Ronaldo the best football player in the world? By asking why, your kids will have to find a reason. They will have to actually kind of fit all of those little Lego pieces in their mind as to, pros and cons of their idea. And this will help them grow in language, but also in their thinking skills. Play the journalist game. When your kids come home and tell you about their day, don't just say, that's nice. Ask them a whole bunch of questions. All those questions that start with W. Who, what, where, when, which, why, whose, why. I already said why? Yeah, I think I did. How? The more questions you ask, the more, again, they are forced to find answers, not just say, oh, the day was okay. Also, when you tell them something, play it like a game. I mean, tell them that, they are the journalist. Maybe if your children are older, you could even get pen and paper. Have them write down questions. Have them interview you. Thinking of questions to ask somebody is not that easy. And it really helps the kids explore, not just, as we said, language and learning skills, but also it makes them fly with their imagination, because it makes them go in a direction that maybe the conversation just wasn't going. Another thing you can do is offer choices. Children perceive themselves as intelligent, thinking creatures that are capable of making their own decisions. And if we respect their decisions, they're more likely to respect our decisions. So instead of telling your child, go put on your jacket, it's cold, offer a choice. Do you want to put on your red jacket or your blue jacket? It's cold outside.
Welcome to my channel, Mountain Mama. My name is Mary Silverberg, and today I'm talking about developing critical thinking skills in your children. And this is an exercise that my family did years ago when we still had all 6 children at home, and we were living out in the country, and we had no TV stations, no cable, and no Netflix back then. So on weekends we would rent videos to watch in the evenings. And our youngest child was 6 when we moved out there, and the oldest was 15. And we were out there for 2 years. So when we moved away, the youngest was 8 and the oldest was 17. So we had, a range of ages in there. And this wasn't something that we set out specifically to do as an exercise. It just kind of developed that way. And it was actually my husband's idea, because he didn't want the children just mindlessly watching videos all the time, even though we were only watching them on weekends. And he wanted them to think about what they were watching. So what he did was he said, this is what we're going to do. Every time we watch a movie, when the movie's over, starting at the youngest, going all the way to the oldest, including mom and dad, only I went last because I'm the oldest, and as I like to tell my husband, the only thing that matters is that I look younger. So starting from the oldest to the youngest, each person had to share a thought. And a thought was just an observation about the movie. It could be something they liked, something they didn't like. It could be like what they thought was realistic in the movie or what they thought was just fake. It just would never happen in real life. It could be maybe where the movie was set. They really want to visit that area of this world sometime. It could be something much deeper, like, did the movie have a hidden agenda that it was pushing, and what was that agenda? So it was very interesting. And as we went up the line in ages with the children and mom and dad, you couldn't repeat a thought. So the older you got, the more thoughts you had to have planned ahead of time to share, because you weren't allowed to repeat a thought. You had to offer a new thought to the discussion. So at first the children were a little hesitant about this exercise or this activity. I think they thought it was going to be like a test, but it wasn't like that at all. After a couple of times they realized, okay, this is low pressure. It just got them thinking about the movie. And we had some really, really good discussions about the movies. And sometimes they were short. Sometimes we were going to watch a second movie right away. So we would just talk for 10 or 15 minutes. But sometimes we would talk for an hour or more. And it really helped develop conversation skills in the children and also thinking skills in the children.